Welcome back to Inside College Basketball Now with Jon Rothstein. Pleased to be joined by Gonzaga head coach Mark Few. And Mark, welcome. Did the Fews get their regular pilgrimage to Maui this summer?
Yeah, spring. We always do it in the late spring.
No, when did that become a tradition?
Oh, wow. I don't know. It's been going on close to 20 years now, probably. Yeah. All the kids have kind of grown up doing it, and all of them surf and are, they're just little, it's definitely became part of the family legacy. You look back over all the photos and all that, and it's pretty cool.
Now, I don't know if you do it just to poke at me, but you've been known when you go to Maui to send me pictures of the pizza that you're eating. Would you really put the pizza in Maui against the best that you've had?
I would put a lot of pizza places throughout the United States. You make that comment that anything outside of the Eastern time zone time, which is extremely ignorant, naive. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of wood-fired thin crust pizza that reminds me a lot of Italy.
Okay.
All over the place.
You know, Mark, you're now 25 plus years into this thing as a head coach. And as you look back now and your kids are older and grown up a bit, you know, how much really pride do you take in the fact that regardless of whatever point you were at in your career, you always made sure to balance being Gonzaga's head coach with obviously being a present husband and father?
I mean, when I set out to do this, I just wanted to make sure, these jobs are all encompassing, as you know. It's always for my family and has been my priority and keeping that intact. And it's been so great to be at a place like Gonzaga where, you can include family. I mean, all of them grew up, hanging out at practice and hanging out here even on days off, run around the gym and playing and players up at the house, players out at our lake place, just always doing that. And I always try to encourage and make sure our assistants do the same. And it's fun to, now that my assistants have kind of moved on and I see that doing that same things at the places where they're head coach. So that makes me feel really, really good too.
You know, every head coach obviously wants to go to a Final Four, wants to win a national championship, but you have taken Gonzaga to the NCAA tournament every single year since you've been a head coach when there's been an NCAA tournament. Out of all the accomplishments that you've accomplished during your tenure, how much pride do you take in that one?
That's probably right up there, I think almost at the very top of the list, if not the top, because I just, when we made that first run, John, in 99, and then Dan Munson, got a great offer to go to Minnesota. We were just very, very driven to not make it a one-hit wonder, to stay nationally relevant, not just be that little story that happened and then it disappeared. And so to stay nationally relevant and as you know, and you always speak volumes about this, it's hard to make the NCAA tournament. It's hard, and I'm with you on how outspoken you are on expansion. I think it is special, and it takes, in a case when you're at a place like Gonzaga, it takes all year. You're building your non-conference schedule to ensure that you make the NCAA tournament in case something goes wrong in your conference tournament. So it's something that I take great pride in. It's not easy. I think it's probably us and Michigan State and maybe Kansas or something. I believe are the ones that are up there, and it's not lost on me either that those are probably the longest tenured head coaches at the same program too. So the continuity, it speaks to that as we watch all these firings across college football, a month and a half into a season.
Well, Mark, you just led me then to my next point, because part of the vernacular right now of our sport is the looming possibility of NCAA tournament expansion. When you hear that and you see it come across your desk, what are Mark Few's initial thoughts?
I think like with anything, these are complicated issues and not ones to just throw out opinions without based on any kind of facts and data and all that. I do think probably the best argument for keeping it the same is that you really, really lessen the importance of a regular season. Then, I mean, if you're just going to keep expanding, and then, as much as you fight and scratch and claw, and then, those teams that are on the bubble at the end of the year, I mean, at some point they probably aren't worthy of making the tournament,
Right.
if based on, a losing record in league or whatever, no matter how hard your league is. It's just, but at the same time, when you're at one of those places, you can make a compelling argument because you're comparing it to another team that got in that may or may not have been worthy. It is, I stand by this, and all the World Cup people can fight me on it, but I think it's the greatest sporting event in the world. It just captures the attention every year. It just delivers year in and year out. It delivers, and I think through all this tumultuous run we're in right now, I think Dan Gavitt and his group, who runs the championship, deserves so much credit. And people have long forgotten how somehow, some way, they got us through COVID and a bubble and ran an incredible tournament then. And I mean, it's just amazing, especially, when you're sitting at a Final Four at the end of it, or just watching the drama the first weekend happen. It's amazing. So, I'm very, very concerned about kind of messing with that.
Mark, part of, I think, the allure for our sport is just the intrigue that surrounds the bubble from like January 1st until Selection Sunday. And obviously that doesn't really include Gonzaga, but that alone creates some of the most compelling regular season games that we have at the end of February. And that leads into championship week, when these teams obviously have everything riding on making the NCAA tournament. And my biggest fear is that we are going to lose that aspect of college basketball if we expand by 8 spots.
That's probably a more succinct way of putting what I just said. Well said. Yeah, there's no question. And again, just what you probably have then forever, I think we fight like, maybe a lack of attention or a lack of interest because NFL's going on or things are going. We've even talked about the start of the season being different or somehow, getting something going in summer to generate attention, much like the NBA does with their summer league and such. Anytime we start doing more expansion of the NCAA tournament, I think there's no question it's going to lessen the attention focused on our sport, November, December, January. And then, like you said, people really start dialing in, and eyeballs are really coming into us once the NFL ends and where all that's going on.
Well, Mark, I referenced earlier about the incredible streak you've had making the NCAA tournament every single year that you've been a head coach at Gonzaga. You also had an incredible streak from 15 until 24 of making the second weekend and going to the Sweet 16 or beyond. That didn't happen last year. You had a really, really tough game in the second round against Houston. What was it like for Mark Few to look at the second weekend of the NCAA tournament and beyond last season as a spectator?
It was bizarre, to be honest with you. There was a big void in the, all around here. And, again, you preach about, to take nothing for granted, and whether it's to the team, to your fans, to your family, who's used to booking things into the second weekend. And it's just a great reminder of how special that accomplishment is. And I think it gives us some good, a good reason for tremendous drive and focus as we move into this year, to get back to that second weekend and beyond.
And obviously, the NCAA tournament is going to be a major part of this season. But for Gonzaga, it's also the end of an era. And as I get older, I learn more and more that the only thing that is guaranteed in life is change. And this will be the last year for Gonzaga as a member of the West Coast Conference. Any melancholy feelings for you as we enter now the final chapter?
Yeah, interesting. Somebody else or several people have asked me that recently, and I just like I've always been like this. I'm just kind of hyper focused on our this preseason, and then also then obviously our non-conference
Yeah.
uh, season always takes on huge importance for us and all that. I think probably when we get into the WCC and you start hitting some of the stops that it's been 27 years, Jon, as a head coach, but it's been 37 years total here at Gonzaga.
Yeah.
So whether it's walking into Firestone Fieldhouse or at St. Mary's or at all these places we've been going every year for the past 37 years, I'm sure there'll be some recollection and some stories and fond memories. Hey, it's been great. You can't argue that it's been great for our program. Look what our program's been able to do while we've been in the WCC.
Well, and you've referenced your non-conference schedule, and feels like every single year we start the debate, is this the toughest non-conference schedule that Gonzaga has ever played? Because, again, it's a murderer's row lineup. Oklahoma at Spokane Arena, Creighton in the Kennel, at Arizona State, UCLA in Seattle, Kentucky in Nashville, Oregon and Portland. 3 big ones in the Players Era Festival in Vegas, Bama and Maryland in Las Vegas are guaranteed. The third one's TBD. I'm curious, will you play as aggressive a non-conference schedule when you're a member of the Pac-12 versus now being a member of the West Coast Conference?
Yeah, I think so. Coach Izzo and I always talk about this, and we lament the fact when we're right in the throes of December but so far, knock on wood, it's never hurt us,
right?
And always somehow, some way helped us. Now there's been stretches of pain during that, and angst. But also that, as we all know, that those can cause great growth, and it's just always served us really, really well. It's the type of schedule that I want to play, and it's a type of schedule that our players want to play. And I think it's the type of schedule, anymore we try to schedule to be a number 1 seed. And so, that's just what we do now. And so it just became kind of normal. So I don't see us changing from that.
And obviously, this season will mark the end, as we've referenced, of your tenure in the West Coast Conference. And that means the end of Gonzaga being in the same league as St. Mary's. Is keeping that tradition alive, either in a home-and-home setting or on a neutral court, something that could be in the cards for these two rivals?
Yeah, I hope so. I think everything's on the table. I think we're still trying to figure out what the scheduling process is going to be, in the Pac-12 and how many games we're going to have and what's the time frame and all those things. And so I would say everything's on the table.
Well, let's get then to what's immediately on the table, and that's your team. Your initial thoughts on the roster that you've put together for 25-26.
Very experienced. I think it's has been said a lot, probably by you, as well as many of us out there in college basketball. It's good to be old, I think, at this point. And we do have great experience, some of which is via the transfer portal. But, also we've had 2 of our transfers that are going to play a lot were here on campus last year, so that's a little bit different too. So they actually sat out last year. So
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No,
you're
I think that really helps us. That's not like, somebody that got here in late July that's still kind of learning, what we do, how we do things. They've kind of experienced it and even almost been like a graduate assistant,
Yeah.
on the pitch and around us in film sessions and all that.
Well, two of the players that you're referencing are Braeden Smith, who was a great player at Colgate, and Jalen Warley, who started his career at Florida State and then had a cup of coffee at Virginia and then went to Gonzaga. But I don't know if you remember this, but maybe 9 years ago, you were in New York for something. You were hanging out with Mark Turgeon in Times Square, and I happened to walk into the bar where you guys were, and we were catching up, and you were telling me about these two guys who were on, your scout team who redshirted. And you love the fact that players were able to redshirt. This is what players used to do. And you had two guys who redshirted. And lo and behold, the two players you were telling me about were Nigel Williams-Goss and Jonathan Williams, who were key figures on that 16-17 team that went to the title game. So I'm just curious, Braeden Smith, Jalen Warley, what was it like to have them in a redshirt year as they get set now to be active for Gonzaga after a year in residence?
Do you think you could voice that the same way and go speak to, Congress and then some of your other media members that speak so eloquently about how like damaging it is to sit out, in college and when you do transfer,
Well,
maybe it's not such a bad thing, especially when you factor in graduation rates.
Well, I got another one for you that I have off the top of my head. In 18 and 19, Villanova and Virginia obviously won those national championships in 18 and 19. Of the 16 players that played for Villanova and Virginia in those respective national title games, 9 of them redshirted, 4 were first-round picks, and 2 were lottery picks.
Exactly. It's amazing sometimes how these narratives start, and if I could change just one thing, and I've been on this for quite a while in all my committee meetings, even speaking with senators and congressmen from all over about just fix the transfer portal. You should get one transfer.
Yeah.
Okay. Things happen, mistakes are made, and you don't have to sit that first one. Anything after that, no matter what happens, you need to sit a year. It can be the best thing for your career, as you just alluded to, including we've had many of our red shirts go on to incredible NBA careers. Yeah. It doesn't, in many ways it helps that aspect also. But way more important than all that is it puts you in great shape, graduation rate wise, and then also in a lot of cases for us who've had guys, plugging away and getting well down the road on their masters while they're here or even finishing it. So again, I think if we could just fix that, it would be an easy fix. And I don't know anybody, with any sense of understanding of college athletics who would be against that.
And that echoes the sentiments of two of your friends. One you mentioned already, Tom Izzo, but John Calipari, another one of your friends, was on here a couple of months ago and was pushing for the exact same things just to stabilize everything. And if you're Mark Few and Gonzaga, if you're going to try to stabilize things with that non-conference schedule, you're going to throw the ball inside this year because you have, in my opinion, the best 4 or 5 combination in college basketball with Braden Huff and Graham Ike. Your initial feelings on this tandem as we get set for another season with the two of them in Spokane?
They've been great. They've had an incredible offseason. Just so diligent with their work, so purposeful with their work. Quite a ways down the road in their college careers, but still so very coachable, and just great teammates, great people. And they're really, really primed for big year. They really play very, very well off each other. They complement each other with their games. I think people will be, I don't want to say surprised, but they'll notice the growth in their games just from last year, which isn't easy, man, when you get this far along in your career. But yeah, obviously they're, it's going to, the discussion about us this year starts and pretty much ends with them. And so they'll be huge part of this year.
And if you're going to have great interior play, that's going to open up things on your perimeter, especially for guys who can make shots. And you brought in somebody in Adam Miller who's a well-traveled player, but he's also in the last rendition of his college career. And again, I want to remind people, Adam Miller did start on an Illinois team in 2021 that was a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. It almost feels like, Mark, and I'm just going back and getting a little sentimental right now, but Adam Miller is coming.
We're not going to talk about New York now, are we?
No. But Adam Miller is coming to you late in his career, and it's a different team, obviously, but it kind of reminds me of when you guys got Jordan Matthews and he filled that spot on the wing. He was older, he was inexperienced, and he filled the role. Why could this chapter of Adam Miller's career maybe be his most productive one yet?
That's a great call. And Jordan Matthews was so integral and instrumental to our run. And actually, we've had some huge shots now. I mean, over the years, like Jalen Suggs,
yes.
At the Final Four, and Julian Strothers and Casey Calvary's tip in. But one that's not talked about that we all know in Gonzaga lore is Jordan Matthews' big three against West Virginia in a Sweet 16 game where, boy, we were just had our hands full with Hug's team and we're in trouble. And he hit a huge three to finally put us up, with, I think, maybe under a minute to go or under 30 seconds to go. So, I think Adam is somebody that we are looking to count on in that role with what you just, referred to, his experience, his ability to shoot the ball from deep. I think he was right around 43% last year from three on a good number of attempts. So, when we have bigs like the ones we have and the ones we're going to focus on, we definitely need to stretch the floor. But also, I think one of the great stories, so far that's been happening, this summer and fall is Steele Venters is finally healthy. And it's so rewarding and so great just to see him out there on the floor. And he's played very, very well. And he's shooting the ball really, really well. And we're just hoping and praying he can stay healthy all year, because he and Adam are going to have a huge impact on our success this year.
And Steele Venters, obviously former Big Sky Player of the Year, but has missed the past 2 years with season-ending injuries. So a great feel-good story, hopefully, to monitor for Gonzaga. Mark, you look at the last 10 years of point guard play and lead guard play for Gonzaga. Nigel Williams-Goss, Josh Perkins, Jalen Suggs, Andrew Nembhard, Ryan Nembhard. What will that position look like for Gonzaga here in 25-26?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting mix. I think, Braeden Smith was able to sit and watch Ryan Nembhard last year and just learn. I mean, Ryan, I don't know if I obviously biased, but I'm also, as I tell everybody, I'm kind of a realist, or not kind of, I am a realist. And I think Ryan's the best passer that I've seen in the 37 years I've been in college basketball. The vision, the ability to deliver a ball in small windows, and just time and time again. Both Nembhard brothers, their feel for the game was just exceptional. So I think Braeden was able to watch all that. He's different, but there was a great ability to absorb and learn and take a lot of that in, and he knows what the expectation is. And then we also have a freshman from Spain who I think is going to really push Braeden, and I see both of them kind of handling that the point guard duties. If not equally, then sharing it enough that we'll get great point guard play this year.
Well, and you're referencing two newcomers to the program. Are those the two newcomers, Braeden Smith and Mario Saint-Superi, I think is the correct pronunciation? Are those the two newcomers that you think will have the biggest impact on Gonzaga this season?
No, I mean, who knows? I mean, we have Tyon, I'm hoping, is going to have a big impact if and when he gets eligible, which should happen, or we hope happens, but should if the right thing is done. And then you referenced Adam Miller, and I guess we would even call Steele a newcomer, right? Since he hasn't
Right.
really touched the floor for us. So, yeah, we're banking on a lot of these guys, but I think at that position, it's going to be really, really important that those guys shore that up and continue, our great play at that position. It's really, really important for our program and our system to have a great point guard play. And we would be remiss, and you being the astute historian that you are, to not mention Kevin Pangos in that group. That whole run, all the way back 15 is when we kind of punched that door into the Elite Eight, and kind of set the stage for this run.
Yeah, and you had referenced, when you're talking about newcomers, Tyon Grant Foster, he was given, clearance from the NCAA to practice, but we are yet to get the official word if he's going to play. What is it like being a head coach 3 weeks away from your opener and not knowing if a key player is going to be available like Tyon Grant Foster?
Oh, wow. Luckily I've been around my NBA buddies, with the USA basketball, and so they've done a great job of teaching me patience. They've taught me many things, but just patience and just the ability to deal with, hey, I think they practice 3 or 4 times, 5 times in camp, and all of a sudden have an exhibition game.
Right.
And we feel like we have to have a summer and a fall and then 30 practices until we can have an exhibition game. So, it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating for Tyon. It's certainly frustrating for his teammates and for all of us here, but it's just something you have to deal with. And again, you're dealing with an experienced player. Equally as important, you're dealing with an experienced team that can handle, somebody coming in and also help him adjust if and when he does come in.
Mark, you've always had other interests outside of basketball. You've always had great work, family balance. You've got a successor in place right now in Brian Michelson, your longtime trusted assistant. How much longer do you think you might want to do this?
Another thing that I don't spend a ton of time thinking about, there's just a drive and a focus to like we talked about earlier in the conversation, keeping this thing, on nationally relevant, and there's keeping it as a top 10, keeping it as a top 5 program. And there's anymore, Jon, there's just so many aspects to that now. There's not only recruiting and scheduling and, developing players, but now there's retaining your players. Yeah. There is a massive time-consuming effort to go out and raise money just to to help the school, stay competitive and stay nationally relevant and top 10, top 5 program. And it takes money, so you got to spend a lot of time doing that. And now anymore, setting up games and situations that can help your revenue sharing. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on. It just keeps you humming along. And I think that's kind of my total focus is just that, to keep this thing at that level.
And the reason
if we can't do that anymore, then I'm out of it. You'll catch me on a river somewhere, fly fishing or visiting you to come watch the U.S. Open in September.
Well, I was going to ask you, if you did retire one day, what do you think you would do?
Oh man, there's a lot of stuff to do. I've been so blessed to have my first 2 kids go to Gonzaga, but my girl Juliet, she's off to college away, so there'll be time to visit people and see things, and all kinds of stuff. We have so many interests, and it'd be great to, for Marcy and I to embark on another phase of our life, whatever that is. But again, no focus on that whatsoever. Dialed into just keeping this thing, and then Jon, also I think a lot of us that have came through this profession where we're at right now, you referenced Tom and Coach Cal.
Yep.
I don't think people understand how hard the three of us and many others out there actually are working on trying to help shepherd this game.
Yeah.
So whether it's NCAA tournament expansion, whether it's fix the transfer portal, whether it's, all these things need to be addressed. And even though the tournament was great and everything looks great from afar, there is, great uncertainty and turmoil right now in, college athletics and basketball. We need to, we can't keep testing fate. We need to solve this thing and get our foundation back. And then I think, the sport's going to be set for many years to come.
Mark, in doing this as long as I have, I'm so fascinated with the fact that coaches always really grieve over tough losses more so than they enjoy their great wins. It's hard to ask, this to somebody who has played in 2 national title games, but for Mark Few, give me one win that stands out that always seems to resonate, and then give me a difficult loss, and let's not count the 2 national title games that kind of sticks with you.
Well, my memory is not. I don't know. I have a tendency to just kind of black things, or just blank them out here after they happen. Man, so blessed, John. It's hard to pick. Any win I referenced the Jordan Matthews shot that probably maybe nobody understands, or Julian Strother hitting that deep 3 against UCLA in his hometown.
Yeah.
After just a long sticking with the plan, and staying with it through the ups and downs, and lo and behold, getting drafted now at Denver and doing well. Jalen Suggs. I mean, I probably that one would come to mind, just because it was in the bubble.
Yep.
And as weird and crazy and all that was really an amazing bonding experience for all of us. We're stuck on the 3rd floor of the Marriott in Indianapolis for like 35 days.
I was there.
18 of us doing laundry together and doing all these things like we were in a a fraternity or something. And then listen, again, one of the greatest powerful moments, winning a gold medal for the United States of America. With just an amazing group of people and an amazing staff with Steve, Ty, and Spo and Grant and Sean Ford. So unbelievable memories there. And then sadly, like you said, I could name, I don't know, 100 of these losses that still eat at me. Losses are crushing and wins are a relief when you're, when you build it up to the level that Gonzaga's at right now.
Mark, I never asked you this, but I'm curious. You were not the head coach in '99, but you were obviously such a part of that run, that first run for Gonzaga. How tough was it when you went that far and you played UConn, who was the eventual national champion, to the wire in Phoenix to come up just short of the Final Four?
Wow, I don't know if it was tough. We were just so thrilled to be. I mean, that was like a storybook. We just didn't want it to end. You just did not want this thing to end. And as that especially those second games, man. That the round of 32 comes at you. It's on top of you just like that, and then obviously the round of 8 is on top of you just like that. And then to be honest with you, something that people don't talk about, that championship game is on you, just like that. And in many cases, we got out of there after Suggs's shot. I think we all settled down back at our comfy environment of the Marriott at probably 2 or 3 in the morning. So Sunday was just a blur going into that Baylor game. But it obviously hurt, but I think there was just this feeling and understanding back in '99 about, wow, what did we just do? You know, our lives and the program and maybe even Spokane will never be the same. And you know, lo and behold, that's pretty much been the case.
Does Baylor in 2021 or Carolina in 2017 hit harder in terms of losing in the national title game when you look back?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I give Baylor tons and tons of credit. They played terrific in that championship game. We did not. It was the first time we just didn't have it. You know, I kind of kick myself sometimes for, you know, not, I could sense emotionally how tired we were, you know, that day and in the locker room. But 35 games in, I don't know if a Knute Rockne fire and brimstone speech would have, especially that group. We were so close, and it would have been a little bit out of character. But sometimes I wonder about that. And then obviously Carolina, that was a crazy game. There were some really, really tough calls down the stretch in that one. But again, we were right there. And both teams were just such special teams, such special people. And I definitely take those memories out of it more than, you know, a disappointment of not winning, you know.
How often do you think about going back to the Final Four?
I mean, the drive is there to go back every year. I mean, it's such an incredible, special event, feeling, moment happening for, you know, everybody, you know, involved, especially at a place like this, you know, an entire city, an entire region and all that. It's so cool. It is, you know, probably one of my great, and I don't know, I don't think it's a regret, but just wish was that 21 team would have got to experience a real Final Four. Because I think lost in all this is, I mean, I don't know who's been as close as we are to matching that Indiana team that went undefeated all year. I mean, we were right on the brink of, you know, being mentioned with those guys, Coach Knight's squad that went, I think it was 76 or whatever, that went undefeated. And to not have full crowds, to not have the streets all covered with people, you know, to not have, actually to not get to play in front of a packed kennel that year.
Yeah.
Because that team just played a beautiful, beautiful brand of basketball. It was so much fun to watch. So yeah, no, it's obviously such a cool deal. You just would love to get back to that. You know, you want to wish that for every coach out there, for every player out there to get to experience. Not unlike the Olympics. Not unlike, you know, you want everybody. God, what a great, unbelievable! Just what a blessing.
Well, let's wrap on this. For the team you're about to coach, what has to happen between now and Selection Sunday for this group to have a chance to then go deep in the bracket again in 2026?
Well, that's practice to practice, John. Some days it's like, you know, we're like that local bakery you reference on every Saturday. We sell hot apple turnovers at a high rate right now. We need to definitely drive that thing down. I think, you know what? I think the understanding right now of just, we have a lot of really, really, really good players, and the understanding of everybody needs to accentuate their role and fulfill that night in and night out. And then maybe not try to do other things that aren't really their strengths, because collectively we have enough here to do something really special. But and again, this is on me and our staff to really pull that out of them, but really understanding that and hit that every night, you know, do your job every night. And then, and again, with anything, just stay fortunate and stay healthy and you know, keep growing. I think both those teams that made the national championship game for us, you know, we just kept getting better and better each week. You know, when you talk about that as a coach, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, Mark, it's going to be a lot of fun to cover. Appreciate a couple minutes. Know how busy you are during the preseason. All the best getting ready for opening night. And as always, look forward to staying connected along the way.
Yep. You got it, John. Appreciate you.
You got it. That's Gonzaga head coach Mark Few. I'm Jon Rothstein, and this is Inside College Basketball Now.